There can be no stable and enduring peace without the participation of the People's Republic of China and its 750 million people. That is why I have undertaken initiatives in several areas to open the door for more normal relations between our two countries. The announcement I shall now read is being issued simultaneously in Peking and in the United States. Knowing of President Nixon's expressed desire to visit the People's Republic of China, Premier Zhou Enlai, on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China, has extended an invitation to President Nixon to visit China at an appropriate date before May 1972. President Nixon has accepted the invitation with pleasure. The meeting between the leaders of China and the United States is to seek the normalization of relations between the two countries and also to exchange views on questions of concern to the two sides.
In the wake of Nixon's bombshell announcement, a move builds up within the United Nations to oust Taiwan and seat the People's Republic of China.
Some say that by no coincidence, Nixon's special envoy, Henry Kissinger, is in Peking, engaged in his second round of talks with Zhou Enlai.
I shall therefore put to the vote that
The United States proposes that the admission of the People's Republic of China should be an important question, requiring the approval of 2/3 of the General Assembly. But a vote of no means that China can become a member by a simple majority of those present. The showdown comes late in the night of October 25th, 1971.
Yes, Mongolia. Rwanda. Yes, Saudi Arabia. Yes, Sweden. No, Togo. Abstention. USSR. No, United Kingdom. No, United Republic of Tanzania. Yes. No, United States. Yes. Zambia. No. No.
The pro-Peking nations in the General Assembly have won a critical procedural vote. It is all over but the shouting. Later, by an overwhelming margin, the Assembly formally admits Peking. The embittered nationalists walk out.
In view of the frenzy and the irrational manners that has been exhibited in this hall, the delegation of the Republic of China has now decided not to take part to any further proceedings of this General Assembly. Thank you.
Arriving from Peking to take its seat, the new China delegation announces its UN policy, which contains no surprises. As the excitement over the UN vote dies down, the world once more turns its attention to Nixon's impending journey to the Peking summit.
After 23 years of official bitterness, two men now make the symbolic gesture of friendship. The scene is Mao's modest home in a corner of Peking's Forbidden City. Their historic talks last an hour, with Premier Zhou Enlai and Dr. Henry Kissinger present. Described as frank and serious, they range over all the major issues of the week-long summit. Mao's position in China today is that of elder statesman, prophet, and father image combined. He is the one who makes the broad brushstrokes of policy. Zhou sees that it is carried out. Mao is a supreme realist. He once denounced Nixon as a cruel imperialist. But in his long lifetime, he has seen friends turn into enemies and enemies into friends. Yesterday, the Russians were friends. Now they are bitter foes. Soviet enmity has made friendship with America a matter of life or death. And for Nixon, peace in Asia is impossible without China. On his first excursion outside Peking, Nixon stands on the Great Wall of China. The wall was built 2,200 years ago to keep out the northern barbarians. Walls have always preoccupied the minds of men. They have been much in Mao Zedong's thoughts. Since assuming power in 1949, he has erected a great wall of the spirit around China. He wished to protect what he believed to be the pure doctrine of Marxism from the contaminating influences of American capitalism and Soviet revisionism. These are to be followed by more newsmen, scientists, doctors, intellectuals, and politicians. That they will have an impact on the Chinese mind goes without saying. For all walls today are out of date. The airplane, television, satellite communications, and free trade have made them useless. So the chances for the generation of peace Mr. Nixon says he wants have now increased. That is the objective of his extraordinary pilgrimage to China. In Peking's vast Great Hall of the People, Zhou Enlai hosts the official banquet. Zhou notes that though a great gulf separates the United States and China, normal relations are possible.
The American people are a great people. The Chinese people are a great people. The peoples of our two countries have always been friendly to each other. But owing to reasons known to all, contact between the two peoples was suspended for over 20 years. Now, through the common efforts of China and the United States, the gate to friendly contact has finally been opened.
Borrowing from Chinese communist history, Nixon calls for a long march together.
Let us, in these next 5 days, start a long march together, not in lockstep, but on different roads leading to the same goal. The goal of building a world structure of peace and justice in which all may stand together with equal dignity.
This historic moment is celebrated with a toast of Mao Tai, a throat-tingling Chinese liqueur. Now the talks begin in earnest. Zhou and Nixon sit down for conversations which last for more than 30 hours and cover the burning issues of Asia. The result of these wide-ranging conversations is the Shanghai Communique. Each promises to refrain from seeking to dominate the Asia-Pacific region and to oppose the efforts of other countries to do so. This is a clear reference to the Russians. This is Nixon's most significant public assertion. In 1969, the Chinese and Russians fought a part comic, part deadly midget war along their eastern borders. It was the climax of a long period of hostility between these communist giants. A million Soviet troops still massed there pose a constant threat to a China jittery from looking over the brink of the Russian precipice. But if the Chinese are alarmed by the Soviet troops on their borders, the Russians are equally anxious over the growing Chinese nuclear arsenal. There is talk in Moscow of a preemptive strike to take out the Chinese stockpile in Xinjiang. As it does in the past, China asserts that at no time and under no circumstances will it be the first to use nuclear weapons. It claims its testing is for defensive purposes only. But the United States has made it clear to both Moscow and Peking that a Sino-Soviet war would endanger the peace of Asia and the world. In the Shanghai Communique, Nixon also recognizes that the future of Taiwan is for the Chinese to settle themselves. But as long as the ailing and aged Chiang Kai-shek is alive, most observers agree that there is little likelihood of negotiations. But compromise runs in the blood of most Chinese, and it is likely that before many years pass, they will do so again. Almost exactly a year after the Shanghai Communique, Henry Kissinger holds an extraordinary meeting in Peking with Chairman Mao. From it comes a decision by China to establish a liaison office in Washington. The United States will set up one in Peking. Nixon chooses 75-year-old David Bruce, a diplomat, to open the Peking mission. Former ambassador to Paris, London, and Bonn, his experience and his mature years make him an ideal choice. China's choice for the Washington job, Huang is former ambassador to France and the one-time companion of Mao's on the Long March. His arrival in the American capital late in May marks, he says, the end of the detour in United States-China relations. Thus, slightly more than a year after the Peking summit, the United States and China have established diplomatic relations one step short of full recognition. To maintain a balance in the multilateral diplomacy he has initiated, Nixon meets with Soviet Party chief Leonid Brezhnev in the United States. The Chinese officially ignore the Nixon-Brezhnev summit, don't even report it is taking place. But indirectly, the Chinese disclose their anxieties. Peking obliquely warns Nixon not to pull American troops out of Europe. The Chinese quote Western statesmen who say, though the Russian bear smiles, its embrace can hurt.
Not so long ago, the Pacific seemed like an American lake. U.S. air, sea, and ground power kept it safe from the threat, real or imagined, of either Chinese or Soviet communism. The end of the Vietnam conflict and the U.S. rapprochement with China opened the door to a different and perhaps more rational view of Asia. It is an Asia in which China, the United States, the Soviet Union, and Japan could cooperate for peace rather than compete for power. The era of confrontation has, for the moment at least, passed. A peaceful China and a peaceful United States together could discourage the reawakening of militarism in Japan. They could persuade Russia that military intervention in Asia is a dead-end street. Within China, tremendous problems remain. The most overwhelming is keeping 800 million humans alive. Another is political, finding young successors to take over after the aged Mao and Zhou pass on. Until that is done, China cannot achieve real political stability. And unless it does, the fragile peace which has ushered in the 1970s could collapse in the shambles of a struggle for Chinese power.